Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. So, recently, Ripple announced their crypto liquidity hub, and Crypto Ari made a great video on SIX and SBI and their plans for a joint venture for a crypto asset exchange. So, let me play this first clip for you guys.
Exciting. Switzerland. I'm here in Singapore now, and we are working with a Japanese institution called SBI to make a joint venture and also create a digital exchange here in Singapore. Here we probably will start with cryptos first, and then other digital assets. So that's the expansion internationally. So we will broaden the product scope in Switzerland. We will set up a digital exchange here in Singapore, and then create also liquidity pools that are connecting those two centers. That's roughly the plan we have in front of us. But we will.
So they're creating liquidity pools that connect Singapore and Switzerland with this new crypto exchange, right? So SIX names Tim Grant as the head of business at digital asset exchange SDX. Now, this is Tim Grant. This is an older video. He says the same information in this more newer video. However, it kind of expands on this older video. So I'm going to play the older video.
And therefore, I actually knew, right, I could see and was feeling the pain of this honking great thing that had been built over the last 40 years. And, everybody jokes about it, but it's fast going to become, a big issue, and already is, that some of the lines of code in there go back to the 70s, the COBOL stuff. And it's just mind-blowing when you see it. You're like, well, there's no way that this makes sense. But there's no answer. There's no way out. It's sort of everyone's stuck. And there I was in the West Coast, and I met with Coinbase and Ripple on the same day, on that fateful day in 2015. And all over the course of those two meetings, of listening to Chris Larsen at Ripple and to Brian at Coinbase, and hearing their story, their passion, but the reimagining of the rails, the reimagining of the infrastructure captured my attention. And at that point, I never looked back. I bought.
So Tim Grant was inspired by Chris Larsen and Brian Armstrong, and Tim Grant he works at SDX, and SDX is far bigger than just this crypto asset platform. SDX is tokenizing stocks, as well as they're part of the BIS Innovation Hub with Project Helvetia. This is a G20 document, and it talks about Switzerland and how they're updating their regulations. They talk about international payments, remittances, the new regulations that are in Switzerland. So Switzerland's updating their guidelines to accommodate crypto, and as you could say, SDX is moving forward with these platforms now. This is OKX. OKX is this crypto exchange that has a large variety of assets. You can buy, you can get XRP, you can get, a lot of these different coins. They also have leverage trading. I don't recommend anyone use leverage if they don't know what they're doing or anything, but they offer it, as well as they have a demo account where you can kind of trade with fake money, and just kind of work on your trading skills. So there's a huge amount of assets here. There's also an NFT marketplace, as well as a GameFi marketplace. So you can play video games and earn the crypto in the video game. So, there's these whole ecosystems that are just dedicated to GameFi. This also works with DeFi. You can use DeFi right on the actual platform. It hooks up to your MetaMask, or they've got their own wallet. They also have their own chain. So they offer a lot. They have really cheap fees, so their fees are really reasonable. And if you're a U.S. customer, you're not allowed to use them. But this is for everybody that's in the rest of the world that's watching this show. So if you're interested, I have a link in the description below. So be sure to check them out. This next video is Michael Saylor. So say what you want about Michael Saylor. I think he's a really smart guy. It's just his conclusion is wrong. So, a lot of the information that he says I think is right. It's just the conclusion is everything is Bitcoin, which I disagree with. But that doesn't mean that I can't take in some of the information that he talks about.
The point that at the point that the regulators give a green light to major banks in the world to issue hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars of digital assets, which happened last week. At that point, you're beckoning the entire world financial system to embrace digital technology. And you'll know that we got there when Amazon moves $100 billion back and forth on digital rails. We've been locked in this nonstop debate over whether Tether is reliable for 4 years, endless debate. It's holding the industry back. And we need to get to the point where people have tens of trillions of dollars of money moving around without the debate about whether or not it's creditworthy or not.
So Tether's holding the stablecoin industry back. Is that what you're saying, Michael?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if Tether wants to be as trusted as a bank, they should get an FDIC license, and they should get an auditor, and they should publish their reports, and they should subject themselves to a regulator, just like every other bank in the Western world does it, and then they'll be treated like every other bank in the Western world. And that is what the administration is saying.
Samsung, respond to that, because I also want to let...
All right, so Michael Saylor is saying that, all these regulations that are coming about are beneficial, and I agree with them. I think once all these regulations come about, it'll give confidence towards the markets, and institutions will be able to dip their toes into the water. And he's talking about hundreds of trillions of dollars that it can come into the crypto markets, and it's going to come in with a lot of these stable coins, right? There's going to be companies that have all types of stable coin products that they want to invest in that's giving them a higher return than bonds, right? So there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come into this market.
And will they come into the space? You have a set of institutional companies like Square and Apple and Google and PayPal and MicroStrategy that have huge amounts of capital and technology and brand, and will they come into the space? And you have countries like the United States, right, like El Salvador. Will they come into the space? And I think that we're going to move from the first decade, which got us to about 2 to 3 trillion. If you want to get to 30 trillion, you need to get to the point where, like, MicroStrategy buys $1 billion. We bought $3.1 billion worth of Bitcoin, okay? You can't find any entrepreneur that ever put $3.1 billion of capital into anything in the entire crypto system, and yet we're a small company. So I think the next stage is about laying the framework such that the Ray Dalios of the world will buy $5 billion of Bitcoin or $10 billion of Bitcoin. Or when Fidelity actually shifts $500 billion, right? They got 11 trillion. When they shift, they have $2 trillion worth of fixed income funds. When 25% of that flows into Bitcoin, you're going to see a different world. And you're not going to get there if you have a never-ending debate about, is that a security, is that backed by real money, and is it regulated? And I think Gensler's point is we need transparency with regard to banks that issue digital money. We need transparency with regard to exchanges that trade securities for the public. We need transparency with regard to organizations that would issue their own securities in the crypto economy. And this stuff it's well understood in the mainstream community. Like if you're going to sell stock to the public or debt to the public, you have to file your statements and you have to go through regulatory compliance. What's happening right now is the entire crypto world is going to go through this evolution to become more compliant and more institutionalized. And it either will make it through that and grow by a factor of 10, or it will not make it through that gate and it will have its growth impaired.
Right.
All right. So regulations are coming. The companies that are able to adapt, able to abide by those regulations are gonna succeed, right? All the crypto companies, all the crypto networks, everything's gotta come into regulations, and there's a tremendous upside when that happens. So, we're starting to see the writing on the wall. They're moving forward with a lot of these regulations. Michael Saylor thinks that there's going to be tenfold, which probably at first it is going to be tenfold. Over time, it's probably going to be even going to surpass that. So the next piece of information is David Schwartz at NASSCOM. And NASSCOM is a Indian non-governmental trade association advocacy group focused mainly on the technology industry of India. So why is David there? So let me play this clip.
Systems more open without sort of having that security problem. And the next question I hear is, well, so what? We already have digital money. So if we build these CBDC systems, why don't we just have the same? Most people who have money don't have physical bills or coins in their pocket. But this is a major first step in providing central banks with a secure, controlled, and flexible solution for the issuance of digital currencies to enable global interoperability. So what does that mean? Imagine every major institution in the world, and I mean every major institution in the world, able to settle every major asset. That's dollars, that's rupees, that's euros, that's Japanese yen, you name it, with every other institution in a compatible jurisdiction. You're not going to see, US banks settling with North Korean banks, obviously. So again, every major institution in the world settling every major fiat asset with every major institution in a compatible jurisdiction in seconds for pennies or fractions of a penny. I mean, how is that not mind-blowing? Every institution in the world can move every fiat asset to every other institution in the world in seconds for a penny, as long as the jurisdictions are legally compatible. How is that not an incredible big deal? That can happen when the systems are independently secure and interoperable. That is a very big deal.
All right, so what he's talking about the federated side chains. He's talking about this new central bank digital currency proposal that Ripple's working on, where these chains, they're separate. They can build their own separate networks where they build all the rules, but they come back to the XRP ledger, and the XRP ledger is the middle ground that talks to all these different side chains. Now, there's when we're looking at these crypto networks, right? That's what we're looking at is the network. And when the network is vast and there's a lot being done on the network, that's how we determine value with the network. So I thought this was interesting. This is Short the FOMO, and this ties back into NASSCOM and David Schwartz, right? He says something is cooking in India. And Short the FOMO is he does on-chain analytics on the XRP ledger, and he just studies the XRP ledger where transactions are coming from and where they're going, and he has an eye on the ODL wallets. The ODL wallets, he says ODL is in India, I guess, it's the fire symbol. So he's been looking into this, and it looks like there's a lot of XRP transactions happening in India. And we know India is getting ready in December for their digital rupee. We know that Ripple is working on a central bank digital currency solution with Bhutan. Now, why am I bringing up Bhutan with India? Bhutan is really closely tied with India, and Bhutan is the largest beneficiary of India's foreign aid, as well as Bhutan is also their currency is also pegged to the Indian rupee. As well as a while back, 2020, there was India crackdown on crypto, and guess who proposed a framework? Ripple proposed a framework to Indian local legislators. So I found that pretty interesting. Now this is Peter Thiel. So let me play Peter Thiel.
Theories that you can print as much money as you want to, there will never be inflation, at, of course, precisely the moment when they're wrong, precisely the moment when no dissent is allowed. I've sort of, I think one of my sort of incredibly big misses of the last decade, I did some, but not as much as I should have, was not buying enough Bitcoin, not buying enough crypto. And, at $60,000 a Bitcoin, I'm still not sure that one should aggressively buy it. But surely what it is telling us is that we are at a crisis moment for the Fed. It is a canary in the coal mine. It is the crypto market is the pure money market, and it is telling us that the epistemically closed bubble around fiat money in the U.S. is heading towards some crisis point. You know, the Wizard of Oz is always this metaphor on Fed on central banking, and I've sort of thought that maybe we're close to a Toto moment in the Fed, where the little dog is pulling the curtain aside from, you know, the Holy of Holies, and you realize that there's nobody there, nothing's really going on, and we've had sort of these preliminary questions about the nature of the stock trading and things like this, and you know, without going into the details of that, it's when you start asking these questions, you know the institution is in trouble. That it is so over its limb, so out on a limb, and so much at a point where something is going to break. And again, the problem, whether it's on Fed, Afghanistan, COVID, is that we have this sort of these machines for generating consensus, uniformity, and not asking dissident questions, even though they're super urgent. And as far as I can tell, the hour is late for all of these institutions, and it's more urgent than ever that we find a way to have some of these dissident voices get heard in all these different contexts. And so, you know, there's sort of a, you know, you can frame the skepticism, dogmatism, or the, you know, wisdom of crowds versus madness of crowds. We're on the side of the madness of crowds. We're on the side of excess dogmatism. You know, there's sort of a centralization, decentralization. Is it too much decentralization? No, it's way too much centralization. Is it too much misinformation? Are there too many crazy dissidents? No, it's too much the ministry of truth. And so, yes, maybe there's some theoretical debate, but in practice, it is, if there's a misinformation problem, it's a centralized misinformation problem, and it's the misinformation coming from the Ministry of Truth, whether that ministry was telling us things about COVID or about...
All right, so this is Peter Thiel, Nationalism Breaks the Dogma Machine. So this is a really interesting speech that he did. Now, in the speech, he's saying, the Fed, we're getting to a breaking point with everything, right? And crypto blockchains are truth. It's verifiable, auditable truth. You can go back, you can look at the ledger and see the truth within the ledger. So, we're getting to this point where the Fed's printing way too much money. Central banks around the globe are really loose with monetary policy, and it's causing all these distortions in the economy. There's a big wealth gap, and people are failing to trust the system. So, this is a possible solution for the distrust. Now, Peter Thiel is also very involved with crypto. Now, this is RSR, which I'm sure some of you have heard about, but he's one of the investors, as well as there's this new project called BitDAO. And BitDAO is, probably like a month or two old. So he's also invested in this project, as well as some other big players. Now, I'm not saying to, do anything with this coin. I'm just saying to if you like what he had to say, he's also invested in this, so maybe that's something you want to check out. So this next guy is Neel Kashkari, and he's part of the Minneapolis Fed, and this is something he has to say.
Their life savings in a matter of 24 hours. Are there discussions from the Federal Reserve or just really in the government about regulation, and what type of discussions are being had? And then with those regulations, are there a timeline on those regulations at all?
Well, there's a lot of discussion going on. By the way, when you first came up to the microphone, I thought you were going to ask about cryptocurrency, so thank you for coming back around to ask about cryptocurrency. Usually, whenever I go to a college campus, I always get asked about cryptocurrency. So one element of regulation is regulating cryptocurrencies as a securities offering. So there have been thousands of cryptocurrencies issued. Thousands. I could go issue Neil coin tomorrow, right? You can issue Wayne coin. There's no barrier to entry. And people have been fleeced out of tens of billions of dollars in what are effectively pump and dump schemes. So thankfully, the Securities and Exchange Commission, whose job it is to protect investors and to regulate securities, has said, no, we're going to go clamp down on this and go start prosecuting people. So I fully endorse the SEC for doing that. So that's one dimension of regulation. Another dimension of this is, well, for the ones that are not pump and dump, complete Ponzi schemes, does there need to be some regulation from a could they introduce financial stability risks? And here regulators are looking at this. What are the financial stability implications of this? And might there need to be new laws passed to give regulators power to oversee these sectors? And then beyond that, there's a lot of talk about the potential for a central bank digital currency. So China has announced that they're going to issue a Chinese official digital currency. And the Federal Reserve is working on a working paper looking at what might it mean if the Federal Reserve were to try to do this. I'll just give you my own personal opinion on this topic so far. Nobody has articulated to me what the benefit would be of a Federal Reserve digital currency. Here's what I mean by this. Digital dollars exist today. I can send anybody in this room $5 instantly via Venmo, PayPal, or Zelle. That's a digital dollar. So what is it that a central bank digital currency, a Federal Reserve digital currency could do that you can't do with Venmo today? I'll give you some examples. Number one, the Federal Reserve in theory could impose negative interest rates on your account. We can't do that today. By the way, that sounds lousy as a consumer. Number two, in theory, the Treasury could tax your account directly. Can't do that today. By the way, that also sounds lousy as a consumer. And number three, if the government wanted to, they can monitor every one of your transactions. Can't do that today with Venmo. By the way, that also sounds lousy as a consumer. So what is the benefit? So then some people say, no, Neil, you're missing the point. We want the seamlessness of Venmo, press a button and it's there. But we want the anonymity of physical cash, because Venmo leaves an electronic trail. Well, I don't know any government in the world that is going to sign up to the seamlessness of Venmo and the anonymity of physical cash. So whatever this magical new crypto central bank digital currency is, it needs to be better for consumers and the government. Now, not if you're in China. China can say, well, this is better for the government, it's lousier for our consumers, and you just take it. But in America, it's actually got to be better for consumers. And so I'm not ruling out the possibility that there's something useful that could come out of this. I've yet to hear anybody articulate what it is.
All right, so the first part of this is he talks about the SEC and the SEC regulating pump and dump schemes, right? He says that he endorses that. The other part of this is that the SEC is also going to have to bring the legitimate crypto networks into compliance. And I mean, that goes back to Michael Saylor's point. You've seen some of the other videos that I showed with Kevin O'Leary. That's where the institutional wealth is transferred into crypto, right? Even if it's just stable coins, right? That's going to rise all boats with that tide. That's a huge tide that's coming in. The other part of this is the part with the Fed coin, the central bank digital currencies, and he names, that he doesn't think that the government should have negative interest rates, which, there's going to come a time where the Fed's going to need negative interest rates, especially if they keep up what they're doing today. The other part is taxing, right? So they can just tax right away. And we're already seeing them warm us up to that. This $600 that they want to watch every $600 transactions. That's what this is about. They're getting everybody ready for these types of regulations. Now, there are good people trying to fight for what's right? Christina Carl with the Digital Dollar Project is trying to push for a Fed coin that has the same freedoms that the Constitution has, right? So there are good people that are going to be trying to fight, and there's senators and everything that are pushing for this as well. What I think is going to happen is you're going to have some type of digital currency with the zero knowledge proof, right? So anything over a certain limit, $10,000, right? They can look into the ledger for that. Or if there's a crime committed, there's certain conditions that would allow them to analyze the ledgers. However, that's going to slowly erode away until, we're at $50 transactions and everything's being spied on. So the other thing was the Digital Pound Foundation. Ripple and Quant spoke there, but they didn't really say anything too interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Remember to check out OKX. You guys have a good night. Thanks.